winner. And I also like to point out is that at the end of the last show, there was some complaining by Joe that he actually won. I think you actually claimed victory, but upon when I was editing and reviewing the tape, I don't think it was as clear cut as you made it sound. So I'm
Well,
gonna
you're gonna
what's
pull
that?
a Lance Armstrong. You have to pull Lance
Yeah,
Armstrong.
we're
He was
we're
doping. Pull the trophies back.
right
Well,
retroactively take back your medal. So
this is based on whose verification of truthfulness.
oh, that would be mine. All right, welcome to episode 81 of Farm to Markets. This is the show where participants only get 5 minutes to state their opinions, and the person with the most time at the end wins, but there are no prizes. Today we are talking about the government defaulting on its debt, the writer's strike, the Perk-Cession, if you should refrigerate butter, and Switzerland trying to get kids to eat bugs. Okay, so the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said the U.S. government could become unable to pay all of its bills on time as soon as June 1st if Congress doesn't first raise the debt limit. Is this just hyperbole, or what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I'm first. Okay. So I think we're just revisiting the same issue from back in January. Remember, we hit the debt ceiling then, and the Treasury used their extraordinary measures so we could put it off for a while. Well, it's been a while, and we're back in the political theater, and we're playing this game of chicken. So we still have this problem. We have a divided government, and both sides of the aisle want things, and negotiations must be made. The GOP didn't want to raise the debt ceiling without reining in some government spending, and the Biden administration and the Senate said they won't negotiate at all, and they'll only entertain raising the debt limit without concessions. Well, both of these are probably untenable positions. Some minor cuts or rollbacks will probably be made before the X date, which is the date that the Treasury runs out of money to meet its obligations. This is just politics. In this case, I think the Democrats have the losing position because they have to agree to something they never wanted. It's kind of like, Tom, if you want to punch me in the face 2 times, and I don't want to be punched in the face at all, and we negotiate and we settle on me only getting punched in the face once, who really lost? I think that would be me. So it will be interesting to see. Some concessions will be made. I think it's just political theater right now. It'll certainly have huge consequences and repercussions in the global economy if we do go past that X date and the government does start to default. But I just don't think we're going to get there.
Yeah, the term paper is due on Friday. Today is Monday. I've got 4 days before I have to worry about even starting the term paper. And that's kind of what's going to happen with this debt drama. It happens every time. We haven't passed a budget. We just keep pushing this, kicking this can down the road year after year after year. We have the same drama. The only thing different this time is that we actually have a slight Republican majority with a bunch of recalcitrant members in the Republican Party who say, you're not going to get my vote unless we cut back spending to lower levels. I don't think what they're asking is unreasonable. I think the Democrats have more to lose than the Republicans do by this showmanship. But if, in fact, we do default on our debt, what will happen is it'll have ramifications and repercussions that'll be felt around the world. Primarily, we'll see interest rates skyrocket overnight because nobody's going to lend money to the federal government at 3% when inflation is over 5 long term. If they don't pay their bills, you're going to have to pay people to borrow money in the future. So quite frankly, I think that it's in the best interest of people who don't have debt to see them pass something. But if they don't, if you're planning the future that's going to be based on debt, life could be a lot more interesting for you.
Running out of money on June 1st is certainly not hyperbole. I mean, that will actually happen. The government could possibly squeeze a few more weeks or months out of it if they try really, really hard, looking at couch cushions for pennies and all that kind of stuff. And the consequences are not hyperbole. I mean, lots of bad things will happen if the U.S. defaults on its debt. That said, I think it's highly unlikely that we're going to get to the worst case scenario in this because just like Joe's term paper analogy, I think we're really gonna, a lot of this is just posturing until it's time to actually start making deals. And when you get to that point, it's really hard to self-inflict a massive amount of pain on yourself and your constituency. So I don't think you're going to have members of Congress being like, all right, we're just going to default on the debt because we don't want to reach an agreement. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think there's a lot of posturing, and I think Janet Yellen's warning is like, hey, you got to start working on this. It's due. But yeah, even if they go past the deadline a little bit, I don't think it's going to be a prolonged issue. 5 years from now, I think it'll just be a blip on the radar.
You want to start an office pool on what hour after midnight we finally get an agreement on what the budget's going to be?
Sure.
All right.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to organize that. So, all right. So on Tuesday, the union representing movies and television writers announced it would go on strike. The work stoppage comes after talks between the Writers Guild of America and a coalition representing the major Hollywood studios, streamers, and networks concluded without a deal. The WAG, which is the Writers Guild of America, said that offers from the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which represent a majority of studio streamers and networks, like I just said, have been wholly insufficient and devaluing to the profession of writing. The Alliance of Motion Pictures says that it included generous increases in compensation for writers. What do you think the potential consequences of a writer's strike will be?
The potential consequences of a writer's strike, I think we'll see a minor disruption in content being put out from Hollywood. But this whole thing is kind of laughable to me. I watched an interview where a writer was complaining about trying to scrape by on his wages while he was sitting in this immaculately decked out house. He had a gold chain around his neck and these designer glasses, and couldn't afford writing on those wages. I don't really like a lot of the content that's coming out of Hollywood these days anyway. I think content is getting a little too modernized and political. Call me a bigot, if you will, but I'm practically rooting for these writers to get fired and quit, and bring in some new writers to write some new content. This doesn't concern me at all. The stakes are so low. What's the worst that could happen? That the Stephen Colbert show might get disrupted? Frankly, I think that's a good thing. So when content out of Hollywood gets disrupted, I don't really it doesn't keep me up at night. Now, when sewage gets disrupted, or energy, or freight, yeah, those are things to sweat about. But this is laughable.
I think Drew and I must be outliers because neither one of us watch a lot of network television, and many of the shows that we stream to watch were written long before this strike took place. So we'll just go watch other things. I think what could happen is that this could accelerate the introduction of artificial intelligence in the Hollywood writing industry. In fact, one of the things that the writers are hoping to achieve with this strike is that they get rid of in their contract that they'll never be replaced by AI. I think that they go too long, they will be replaced with AI. And if that happens, Katie bar the door is that then we're going to see lots of ramifications in the entire economy if we see an acceleration of AI starting to replace people on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, I just did a quick Google search. So according to Distractify, average wage for writers is $69,510 per year. So I guess if you're living in California, that could be that could be reasonably low. But I think kind of like what happened during COVID, a lot of people, there wasn't a lot of new content, or at least there was a period without new content generation because everybody wasn't compliant with the COVID rules and they were concerned about getting COVID, so they were just making TV shows like they did. So what did other people do? They found hobbies. They started watching YouTube videos about their hobbies. They found books. They talked to each other. I don't think that the writer strike is going to have the same impact as, like Drew said, like a garbage strike would have. So yeah, I don't know. And you're right. Artificial intelligence can start writing more and more. I mean, at some point there is a demand for good content. Like I'm sure Netflix wants to find writers with good content, But probably what they'll do is they'll find independent writers who have already written something good and then buy it versus just hiring a team of writers. And then, the premium on good content will go way up because everybody can be a writer, but what we want is like really good content. So we'll buy your content for cheap, and then if it does really well, maybe there'll be some incentives where you get like royalties or something like that. But I mean, yeah, like I don't think the impact is going to be very big, and I don't think they're going to get a huge increase above what they're already getting. So
There's probably about a half a dozen shows that I'm aware of where the writing is already good. I don't watch network television, but occasionally when I travel, I'll turn on the TV in the hotel room while Lynn is getting ready to go wherever we're going. And the vast majority of network television that I've observed is garbage. I mean, they're overpaid now. I mean, I can't imagine AI doing a whole lot worse than some of the sitcoms and the writing that I've seen on television recently. So I don't know if they're getting paid what they should be getting now. I think they're getting paid too much if that's the kind of garbage that is being spoon fed to America.
All right. So next one's Jolie Martzel, a 49-year-old business owner, author, and mother of three, is on a mission to convince American households and federal officials that it is safe and preferable to keep butter at room temperature instead of refrigerated, particularly for those who have a taste for buttered toast. So I guess the question is, do you refrigerate your butter or not?
I do refrigerate my butter, but I am well aware that you can leave butter at room temperature. This wasn't like an epiphany for me where, one day I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen the light. My whole world has changed. That's kind of what this person made it seem like, was like, this is revolutionary. I think most people know you can do that. The reason I put butter in my fridge is because I don't eat a lot of toast. And what I do with the butter is I take the whole stick out of the fridge and I use it to grease my cast iron pan. When it's in a solid block like that, it doesn't get all mushed around, and I can put a nice even coating. I put it back in the fridge. So that's what works for me. But I guess if other people like to leave it out at room temperature, more power to them.
Like Drew, I've known for a long time you can leave butter at room temperature. I just prefer the taste of cold butter. I like the feel in my mouth. It feels better than the mushy melted stuff. When you go to a lot of diners, they have the butter on the table already at room temperature. I'd rather have those cold pat butters.
Yeah, I mean, we leave butter out pretty consistently in the summer. I mean, Jolie is right. It's way easier to spread in the summer. I don't eat a lot of toast. And frankly, I would never eat cold butter like raw. I mean, it has to be melted. Like I cannot eat a chunk of butter. I'm sorry, but I will leave it out on the counter. And I'm also curious that Drew makes toast in a cast iron pan. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I use 95% of my butter usage is just greasing pans.
Oh, okay.
Now, when I do use toast, sometimes I'll put it on toast or a bagel. I'll actually use that same cold stick of butter. And then you take the hot piece of bread and you take the stick of butter and you just kind of spread it around. You don't actually spread it with a knife. You just use the stick. It works out great. So
don't you get a bunch of breadcrumbs stuck to your butter when you do that?
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna eat your nasty butter at your house.
Yeah, fine. Eat your own butter.
Yeah. All right. So last question is that in Switzerland, children are being schooled in the more subtle pleasures of eating mealworms, locusts, and crickets. Switzerland in 2017 became the first country in Europe to allow insects to be sold as food for humans after a lobbying campaign by edible insect startups. Do you think these edible insect startups will successfully convince people and kids to eat insects over, more regional things that they're good at, like cheese and chocolate?
No, if it comes down to cheese or chocolate, that's always going to trump bugs. Now, I kind of like that idea. In addition to cheese and chocolate, hey, let's introduce bugs. Some cultures do it. I know it's kind of gross to our culture, but if it's edible, it's a source of protein and calories. I don't discriminate. I try it.
If it's a matter of popularity, I don't think eating bugs is ever going to take off and replace cheese and chocolate. But but I don't think it should be prohibited. People want to eat bugs, fine. But no, I don't think people are going to be doing it wholesale.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, when you have the choice, like I can see if you're like in the woods and it's eat a mealworm or starve. Obviously people are going to go for the mealworm. But when you have like cheese, chocolate, and other things available, I don't think mealworms are going to be. So I would be hesitant to be in a startup that is going to start serving mealworms, stuff like that to people. Like I don't know if that's something I would invest in. So
Remember that episode we did where we did the hot sauce and
yeah,
while we did the farm to markets episode?
yeah,
I think eating bugs has a certain shock factor, a certain yuck factor that it's fun to watch other people doing it.
yeah.
But I don't think people are going to sit down and put the napkin on their collar and break out the knife and fork and start enjoying a plate full of June bugs. I think that the reason they do it is on a one-off. You do it for fun, but once you've done it, been there, done that.
Yeah, I agree. So,
I thought did I miss a topic? I thought we were going to talk about the what was it, the perks getting slashed by tech workers.
yeah, Oh yeah, I think I skipped over one. My bad.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. I mean, yeah, we still have plenty of time here, and we probably should cover 5 topics. So yeah, yeah, I must have just scrolled past it. So we'll just do the third topic. So companies are cutting back on prizes, or okay, so companies are cutting back on prized employee perks from fancy coffee to free cab rides as they vow to trim cost and prioritize efficiency. These extras, above and beyond traditional healthcare and retirement plans, were meant to make workers want to join companies and stay there. They've grown to be seen by some as a form of compensation, so the cuts can sting. What impact do you think these will have on employee retention?
So, okay, I don't have much time. We kind of chatted about the other topics a little more, but I guess I'm probably going to sound like a bigot again. But cry me a river. Are you kidding me? Pet insurance, wellness retreats, free specialty coffee by in-house baristas. What I want is to see these people cleaning out Section 8 apartment units in the 7th Ward of New Orleans for minimum wage. And then I want to see them working the graveyard shift, shoveling frac sand in the Bakken oil fields in the middle of January. Then I want to see them sleeping in a 6x6 railroad signal shack in Gary, Indiana 5 nights a week because the company won't pay for your lodging. Then I want to see how hard they're using their pet insurance and free dinners. This is ridiculous. Those are all things I've done, by the way. So if these cuts sting, then I think they can handle it.
I think in a tight labor market, the applicants have a lot more power than when jobs are scarce. And I think what we're hearing is the bemoans of people who have had lobster for so long that they're now complaining that the lobster tastes like soap. So, like Drew, I have little sympathy for some of these problems, but that's the nature of the beast in a society that is as affluent as ours. Is that when you have just about anything you want, well, what's the next best thing we could get? Pet insurance. So, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I agree. Is that I think most people, like if you want your job, because it used to be where we're trying to we're trying to attract like the best employees possible, so we're going to offer these perks. Now I feel like people are worried about recession. They're getting rid of employees, and I think employees will just be happy to have their jobs versus the ping pong table or the latte stand, in the building especially after they've seen like 50% of their colleagues get laid off. I think at some point they're just happy to have a job. So when the labor market gets tight again and companies are competing for workers, then you'll probably see perks come back. But until then, I think employees are just going to be happy to have their jobs. So bigger issue. So all right, so that's it.
I think you're the big winner, Tom.
I'm the big win. So, all right, that's it for episode 81. We'll see you again next week.